I have started recording. Thank you.
Welcome everybody on this Monday afternoon. Hopefully you're all ready to join us for Crochet 103 taught by Darren there on screen. As Kelly mentioned, this class is being recorded, so we'll have this available for you to watch later. My name's Claire. I'll be hanging out in the chat, answering your questions there or forwarding them on to Darren. I'll also put the handout and the pattern in there in case you need it again. And now that all of that is out of the way, we will let Darren take it over.
All right, welcome to class. Today, as Claire said, it is Crochet 103, building on the other two classes that we've had in the two previous weeks. A little bit about class today. If you downloaded our handout, you can see mine has my teaching notes on it. There is a class exercise on the front, but we're not going to do that in class today. This was written for a 2.5-hour class originally, so we wouldn't have time to get through all of it if we did it in class. So this is something you can practice at your leisure later on. In class today, I'm going to just be demonstrating the stitches that you're going to need to make this cowl, and we'll review the pattern at the very end. And we're even going to learn some extra things. So some of the extra things we learn you won't even need for this, but you might want them for future projects. So that's why we're not going to be using this exercise today, but it is a good exercise. So maybe practice that another time. And if you want to work along with me in class, if you want to try to go along with me, just do a chain of like maybe 15 stitches and do like one row of single to give yourself a foundation to work into, and you can go along there. Or you can just watch the class and then practice later on. So in class today, I'm going to be using this yarn for teaching. And this is it's called Hometown Bonus Bundle. And this is available on michaels.com, also on lionbrand.com. The reason I'm using this yarn for teaching is because it's a nice thick yarn, so students can see the stitches much easier. But for the pattern, you're going to be using, it calls for this one, which is Heartland, and it's a worsted weight yarn. So if you want to make the pattern, this is the one you're going to need. You don't need to buy this one. I just like this for teaching. But if you want to buy it, it's a great yarn. So I do love this yarn. So with all that out of the way, we want to go ahead and switch the view to the view of my hands. We'll go ahead and get started. Move this out of my way here. All right, so we are going to learn first, we're going to learn how to do increases and decreases. It's nice to be able to add stitches or subtract stitches, and that will help make your work, it'll give you the opportunity to make things that are shaped differently. So instead of always doing a square or a rectangular shaped piece, you'll be able to do all kinds of shapes and all kinds of different things. You'll need to learn this if you want to do lace or if you want to do amigurumis and make little like stuffed animals. So these are all going to be great skills for you to add to your crochet. So single crochet is where I'm going to start. So let's just go ahead and just do one single crochet just for fun. So just do a single crochet, just like normal. That's a normal one. And if I want to increase, so let's say I have 20 stitches and I need 21 stitches because I'm making my piece larger. I'm going to show you that, and that's very easy and very straightforward. So you just do a single crochet like normal in the very next stitch that you're going to use. So single crochet. And then this is the part that's different, and it's pretty easy. So in that exact same stitch that you just used, you're going to put 2 stitches in that exact same stitch, and that's what will cause an increase. So you go back through the same stitch and do a single crochet. And if you look here really close, you can see how there's 2 stitches coming out of this one. And it sometimes makes this hole look a little bigger but by the time your fabric relaxes, it kind of blends in. So it's not going to look so bad. So let me show you that one more time. Get a good view here. So you enter a stitch just like normal, bring up a loop, make your single crochet. Go in that exact same stitch, that exact same space, bring up a loop, make a single crochet. And that's an increase by 1. So you're increasing. Now you could do, maybe you're working on a pattern that's really kind of interesting. You could do 3 single crochets in the same one. You could do 10 maybe single crochets in the same one. That's not something you would normally do. You might do 3 or 4 in the same one if you're making a ruffled edge or some type of a lace pattern. But that's super easy. You'll be able to do that very easy without any problem. Decreasing is also really easy. And I'm going to demonstrate that. That gets a little more complicated with the other stitches. So a decrease for a single crochet, you enter the stitch, bring up a loop, and then you advance to the next stitch, enter that stitch, bring up a loop. I have 3 loops on my hook. You yarn over, bring it through all 3. And what I've done here is I've taken 2 stitches and turned them into 1 stitch. So I've decreased by 1. So I'll show you that one more time. Enter the stitch just like normal, bring up a loop. Now this is how you would do a single. And if I were going to do a single, I would just yarn over and bring it through, but I'm not just doing a single. So you would advance to the next stitch, bring up a loop, then yarn over and pull that through all 3. And as you're doing this, you want to make sure to use a light hand. Like you don't want to get in the habit of pulling your stitches tight or your loops tight. You want to let them kind of, your hook should move freely on your stitches. And if at this point, if you're having a hard time getting your hook through those loops, you're probably pulling it too tight. Sometimes you have to tease it through a little bit, but it shouldn't be very hard. All right. Any questions about what we've just learned? Would you like to see any steps of any of those again? Feel pretty good about it? No questions, huh? There's usually questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
I was going to say we could probably stand to see both of those again.
Okay, that's how I thought, but okay. So crochet, so if I'm going to do an increase, I'm going to increase by 1, add 1 stitch. You go into the very next stitch just like normal. Bring up a loop and finish your stitch. That's 1 single crochet. And if you want to put your finger there to kind of help keep track of where you are, don't stretch out that hole, make it too big, but you can just put it there to keep track. Enter that exact same stitch, bring up a loop. Oh, wait a minute. See, I'm doing it. No, that's right. Got myself confused. There we go. And now I've done 2 in 1. So let me do that again since I kind of got mixed up. So bring it up, finish your stitch, and you're just going to do 2 stitches in 1 loop. Okay, go to the very next stitch, bring up a loop, finish your stitch, bring up a loop, and finish your stitch. Okay, and that's increasing, and you can see it's making it's already changing the shape of my piece. So instead of making something that's rectangular, it's forcing it to be curved because there's so many stitches in that one spot. So now let's do the decrease.
Sorry, Darren, while we're talking about increases, we do have a question. Is this the main type of increase, and are there other types of increases in crochet? Like in knitting, there are several different ways to make it increase.
Well, that's a good question. And for the most part, this is really the only way I've ever done increases in crochet. What do you think, Claire? Are there a lot? There's not lots of different ways, is there?
I think the only other way I've seen it or seen it in a pattern is where you would do one stitch in the front loop and one stitch in the back loop, but you're still
Okay.
going in the same space. Yeah. And then the other part of that question is, will the pattern specify what type of increase or decrease to use?
It should. When you're reading the pattern, it usually reads, let me see if I have it here written out. So for this one, double crochet two together, it would just be written double crochet two together. It's kind of abbreviated like that. So that's what it will look like. It might say decrease row, or it might not. It might just tell you double crochet two together. And that's you'll just do it that way. Or for an increase, it will just say in the next stitch, do two double crochet, and then every stitch after that one double crochet. It could read many different ways, but it will it should tell you what type of stitch to use, double, single, triple, and then two together or even three together. So let me do the double crochet two together if we're ready to see that again. I'm sorry, triple, I'm getting myself all tongue-tied. We're going to do single crochet. We're still on single crochet two together. So you enter the stitch like normal, bring up a loop. You don't finish your stitch. You just kind of wait here for just a second with two loops on your hook. Enter the next stitch, bring up a loop. Now I have three loops on my hook. Yarn over and then pull that through all three. So when you finish that stitch, you're kind of finishing all of it at once. And that's taking two stitches and turning them into one. So here, these are two stitches right here. And if you follow it up, it becomes one stitch. So we decreased or subtracted by one. Okay. And just for fun, we could do a decrease. We're going to single crochet three together. So you do it the exact same way, only you go into the third stitch. So let me do that one more time. So go into the advance to the next stitch, bring up a loop, advance to the next stitch, bring up a loop, and advance to the next stitch and bring up a loop. So that's crochet, single crochet three together. I have four loops on my hook. And then there you have it. Any questions at all? So I'm going to do a couple of increases so that I don't run out of swatch later on. Any questions? You want to see any of that again, or are we ready to see double crochet? Okay, what do we want to do? Double crochet?
I think we can move on to double crochet. Are we skipping half double?
No, sorry, half double crochet it is. That one abbreviation I showed was double crochet, and now it's got me fixated on double crochet, I guess. So half double crochet. So for a half double crochet, if we're going to start a row of half double crochet, we need to chain two to create our side edge. So we're going to do a chain two, turn our work, and I'll do a half double crochet just like normal, just to kind of show you what that is. So half double is the first one you start with the yarn over, enter the stitch, bring up a loop. I have three loops on my hook, yarn over, bring it through all three. So that's a half double, just a standard one. Now for half double crochet two together, well, let's do the increase first. We're going to increase by one. So we're going to do two half doubles in the next stitch. And then finish that stitch completely. Yarn over for the new one, enter, bring up. So if you know how to do a half double, then you can certainly do a half double, 2 half doubles in 1 stitch. So this is the stitch I'm going to do next. Yarn over, enter the stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over, finish that stitch, yarn over, go in the same stitch, and then finish your half double. And I've got, if you look here, so here's this stitch right here, and if you follow up, you can see it turns into 2 stitches. So that is an increase. Now for the decrease, where we subtract a stitch, you start like normal, you yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. You should have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, bring up a loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on your hook. Yarn over, bring it through all. And then that is how you finish the half double. So any questions about that?
Gloria has a question, but I'm not quite sure what she's asking here. She's asked, do you need to do a single to set the increase or decrease?
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, but you don't have to do anything to set it. You just I'm not sure what she's asking. But you just do it like normal. Let me demonstrate. So I just did half double crochet 2 together, and I'm going to jump right in and do another half double crochet 2 together. And so you can see I didn't do any other stitches in between. Sometimes when I'm teaching, I'll do a standard stitch, like I might just do a regular half double in between just so that you can see the difference, but you don't need to. You could do half double crochet 2 together for the entire row and not have to do any other stitches to like set up for it or get ready for it or anything. Does that answer that question?
I think that's kind of what was being asked, yeah.
Okay, not sure. All right, you want to see half double 2 together again? Or do we feel good about it?
Yes, please, let's show that again.
Okay, so we start like normal, yarn over, bring up a loop. I've got 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, bring up a loop, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then bring it through all 5. So as you're doing the increases, I'm sorry, the decreases, for each stitch, it's kind of a rule of thumb that you don't finish the stitch until you've reached the last stitch that you're decreasing. So in this case, I'm going to be working with 2 stitches. So I don't want to finish my stitch until I've entered into the second stitch. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So you start like normal, yarn over, bring up a loop. Now, if I were doing a regular half double, I would yarn over and pull it all 3, but I'm not going to finish the stitch. I'm not doing the last step. So, but I yarn over and enter the stitch, bring up another loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm going to do my last step, which is bringing it through all of them. So I'm finishing both of these 2 stitches together at one time, and that's what forces them into 1 stitch. I don't know if that, hopefully that makes sense. But you'll see me doing that in each one of the decreases as we learn them. So yarn over, enter the stitch, bring up a loop. Don't do the last step. Yarn over, enter the stitch, bring up a loop, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yarn over, pull it through all. And you can see I'm getting a weird shape. I'm not getting a square or a rectangular shape. It's going to be a little bit different. All right, any questions about that? Do we want to see it again? Pull it through all. So yarn over. Now this time I'm doing an increase. So I'm going to do a couple of increases. Remember, you just do the stitch just like normal. You finish the entire stitch and you just do it in the same stitch that you do 2 stitches in the same one you're working with. So now I'm going to work with this stitch, yarn over, finish off your stitch, finish it completely in the same stitch. I'm going to do another one. That's my increase. And for the decrease, yarn over, bring up a loop. Don't finish the stitch. Yarn over, bring up a loop. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bring it through all. And then you finish it at that last bit. And I got a knot in my yarn. If I was really making a project, I would stop and cut that knot out and rejoin a new ball of yarn. But for a practice swatch, it doesn't matter. So yarn over, bring up a loop, don't finish the stitch, yarn over, go through, bring up a loop, yarn over, and go through all. And that leaves me with just 1 stitch on the end. So I'll do an increase on the very end. And then we'll rest for a minute and think about what questions we might have. So an increase on the very end, turn your work, and what questions? There must be some questions.
So I think we have a little bit of confusion on how often you would do an increase or decrease across the row, because you're not following a pattern, right?
No, I'm not following a pattern. I'm just demonstrating the stitches as as I feel like people want to see them. I'm doing the increases and the decreases, alternating them kind of randomly just to show them. The pattern will tell you. So when you're following a pattern, it will say chain 2, double crochet in the next 5 stitches, double crochet 2 together, double crochet in the next 3 stitches, 2 double crochet in the next stitch, something like that. It'll tell you each stitch to do step by step. So you won't have to guess. Is that the question?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it gives you, we're going to look at a pattern at the end, but it gives you the stitches you're supposed to do 1 stitch at a time, and it spells them out. Sometimes it'll say repeat this 5 times, but it's still giving you the stitch by stitch instruction. So let's do a half double 3 together. So yarn over, and I'm not going to finish my stitch. Yarn over, not going to finish my stitch because we're doing 3 together. Yarn over, bring up another loop. All right, now, since I've worked in the 3rd stitch, we're going to yarn over and bring it through all of them and finish all those stitches. But let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You should have 7 loops for crochet 3 together, half double crochet 3 together, yarn over, and bring it through all. And sometimes you have to tease it through a little bit. And that was a decrease by 2. I took 3 stitches and turned them into 1 stitch. So I decreased 2. Let me show you that again. And this is half double, 3 together. So yarn over, enter the stitch, bring up a loop, but don't finish your stitch. Yarn over, enter the stitch, bring up a loop. Don't finish that stitch off yet. Sorry. Yarn over, enter the 3rd stitch, bring up a loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. yarn over and finish all of those stitches together, and that's what forces them down into one stitch. Okay. Any questions about that? Pretty easy? It gets easy when you practice it. As you practice, it will get easier, I promise. We ready to move on to double, or do we want to stay with half double for a minute?
I think let's go ahead to double since you showed that abbreviation. Everybody wants to get there.
Okay, so, and as I'm teaching, you can see I have my notes. I always have each stitch written out, so as you can see, I don't always speak clearly. So that way I'm not going to misspeak and tell you the wrong numbers. So I always have it written out so I can read it and make sure I'm not speaking incorrectly. So for double, yarn over, I'm just going to do a double crochet just to kind of build up the height. Since I'm switching from half double to double, I'm going to do another one just for fun. But you wouldn't have to. I mean, the pattern could say half double two together, double crochet two together, and then triple crochet two together. It just depends on what you're making. Anything is possible. So double crochet two together, you yarn over, insert the hook, bring up a loop, yarn over, bring it through two loops, and then we're not going to do that last step. Normally for a double crochet, you would yarn over and pull it through the last two, but we're not going to do that last step. Yarn over, insert your hook to the next stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over, draw it through two loops. I have three loops on my hook, yarn over, draw it through all three, and that you finish the stitches together, and then two stitches become one. Let me demonstrate that again. So yarn over, enter the stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over, bring it through two, don't finish your stitch, yarn over, enter the next stitch, you're advancing to the next stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over, and then you finish them off together, okay? And let me show you how to do the increase, which is very simple. So you yarn over, enter the stitch, and you do your double just like normal. You finish each, so you completely finish that stitch. Yarn over, enter the stitch, bring up a loop, go through two, just like normal. And the only unusual thing about increasing is you're doing two stitches in one, the stitch below it. So I kind of stretched this out so it's easy to see. I did two stitches in one, so that one stitch becomes two. And then here, these two stitches here move together and become one. So these two stitches, when they come up here, they become one, and this one, it becomes two. So you get here and here. Any questions? Once you practice and get a little bit more comfortable with it, it's a good idea to stop and look at your stitches and see how they're shaped and how they're forming the next row. So then you can get really comfortable with looking at your work and figuring out exactly what happened. And maybe if you've made a mistake, you can go back and count and see and be like, oh, wait a minute, I did an increase here and I wasn't supposed to. So it's a good idea to stop every now and then and look at your stitches when you remember what you just did to see how they look, and then you become familiar with your stitches, okay? Any questions about double crochet? Okay, so yarn over, For my decrease, yarn over, enter the stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over, bring it through 2, don't finish off, yarn over, enter the stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over, bring it through 2. Now I'm ready to finish off both stitches, bring it through all. And then for an increase, you just do your double like normal, finish the complete stitch, and then do another one in that exact same space. So that's pretty straightforward. Okay, I'm going to wait here for a second and see if we have any questions or you want to see any of this again. How are we doing?
No questions so far.
And we didn't have a lot of questions last week either. Usually there's a lot of questions. So, all right, I just don't want to go too fast and leave anyone behind. So if you do have questions, please ask them. So yarn over, bring up a loop, bring it through 2, yarn over, and once you get in the rhythm of it, it's actually pretty easy. Sometimes the hard part is just paying attention to make sure you keep track of what you're doing. So I did an increase here on the end. Okay, turn your work and we're ready to start the next row. Are we ready to go to triple? Triple crochet?
I think so. Just to give you a time check, we're about halfway through class.
Okay. Let's do a triple. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot to do my chain on the side. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we're going to do triple, you chain 4. And you yarn over twice. And you could start, you 100% could start with a decrease or an increase on the first stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I did my triple, yarn over twice, and I'm going to increase on this first stitch just to show that you can. You don't have to do a standard stitch at the beginning or the end necessarily. Depending on what you're making, you might do a standard stitch on each end or you might not. So there is my triple. I did 2 triple in the same stitch. So that's pretty easy. So now for the decrease, and it's easy to do it. It's just, sometimes it's hard to keep track of which loop you're on and which step you're on. So yarn over twice for a triple. So insert, you bring up a loop, you bring it through 2, bring it through 2, and remember, we don't finish the last step. So that's how you can keep track and try to remember. So yarn over twice for your triple, bring it through 2, bring it through 2, don't split your yarn, bring it through. Okay, so we're going to yarn over twice, insert your hook, bring up a loop, and you'll have 4 loops. Yarn over, bring it through 2, bring it through 2, and now I have 2 loops on my hook. Yarn over twice, advance to the next stitch, bring up a loop. I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on my hook. Yarn over, bring it through 2, yarn over, bring it through 2, and then yarn over and finish off that stitch. Bring it through all 3 that are left. Okay, that one is it seems more complicated because there's more steps for a triple, but it's really not that much harder. Do we have any questions about that? I'm glad to do it again. So yarn over twice for a triple, enter the next stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over, pull it through 2, yarn over, pull it through 2, yarn over twice, and advance to the next stitch, bring it through 2, bring it through 2, and then the last step, you'll finish all 3 stitches, or I'm sorry, you'll finish both of these stitches off at the same time and bring them into one stitch by pulling it through all 3 loops. Any questions? No questions? I can hardly believe there are no questions.
General question about triple crochet, since they're so tall and airy. Do you think they're used more in like summery like projects like a shawl or something?
They certainly could be. You're right. They do leave a lot of space in between the stitches because they're not connected. I'm not going to get into this today, but just so you know, there is a way to connect these. It's a connected triple crochet or double crochet. That's for another day, but just so you know about it, but it does leave a lot of space between. I think triple crochet is used more often when you're doing lace and you need that extra space to connect different lacy areas. It certainly could be used to make a summer shawl because it would be more breathable. There's lots of different reasons why you might use it. So it'll finish a project very fast. If you do a scarf with triple crochet, then you'll move along really, really fast. And if you use a nice warm yarn, if you use like a fuzzy wool, it would still be very warm. So just depending on the yarn that you use, could depend on how it turns out as well. Any other questions?
We have a more technical question, and I don't know if you want to get into this in class, but we do have a request to see double crochet 2 together in the back loop.
Okay. Well. Alrighty. So since we want to do that, let's talk about the back loops and the front loops first. So I have some samples made. This is one thing I also wanted to cover in class. So here's the standard way of going through both loops, and you can see how that looks. And it looks pretty much the same on both sides. So that's just doing it through both loops in the standard way. If you do it in the back loop, what happens is you get this little edge, you can see it has a little edge right here where you don't have that. And that just creates more texture. Sometimes you can use that as, if you do a whole row of those and hold them this way, you could use it for the ribbing on the edge of a sweater or on the edge of a hat. It can turn into it looks like a knitted rib almost, but that's crochet through the back loop. It creates this edging. And if you look at the back, it pretty much looks exactly the same as the standard way. So nothing really exciting happens on the back. It's all on the front. And just one more. So here's crochet through the front loop. And if you crochet through the front loop, as you're doing your work, it doesn't look any different. But on the other side is where you're going to create this little edge. So just depending on what you're making, it will work up differently. But let me show you double crochet in the back loop. So let's look at our stitch first. And what is a front loop and what is a back loop anyway? So if we're going to do a crochet stitch, any of our stitches, we would go under these 2 strands of yarn right here. So this is kind of shaped like a V, and sometimes you'll hear these called loops or legs of a stitch. Quite often they are called loops. So standard one, you go through both. If it says go through the back loop, what you're going to do is you're going to kind of go right in between, right in the middle of that V, and you're only going to go through the back loop. So, and then, okay, we're going to do a double. So we start with our yarn over, only going in the back loop, bring up a loop, don't finish off that stitch, yarn over. Now advance to the next stitch, but remember, we're only going to go through the back loop and then bring it through. And now we're going to finish off both of those stitches and turn them into one stitch. And you can see here, as I was working across, I didn't have anything. And then all of a sudden I have this little edging right there. So that gives it texture. Did that answer that question about the back loop?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Do it one more time. Okay, I'm just going to get to the end of my row. So I'm just going to quickly do half double just to end this row, because there's something else I want to show you. Okay, so I'm going to end it right there. I'm going to chain 2. And for this next thing I'm going to show you, I'm going to put a stitch marker because I need to remember, I'm going to need to be able to find this chain 2. I'm going to need to be able to find that. So let me show you what we're going to be doing, and then I'll show you how to do it. So in crochet, there are many, many ways of doing everything, it seems like. So this is double crochet with a standard edge. And the standard edge is the edge that we've been using all along, where if you have 10 stitches, you chain 2 for your double crochet, and then you simply do 1 stitch in every stitch across, and you'll end with 10 stitches if everything went well according to plan. And you do get a little bit of a wavy or fluted edge. You don't get a super, super straight edge. You do kind of get that little bit of a wavy edge. And that upsets some people. So some people don't like that. And there's another way of doing it. And this is the way I'm going to show you. And this is a double crochet with a straight edge. And as you can see, the edge is much straighter than the other edge. So if we look at them together, the main, I'm going to show you how to do that, but the main thing you need to remember is you need to, if you're going to be doing this, you need to double check and make sure you know where you're putting your hook, and you need to use a stitch marker to really help you keep track. So that's why I put a stitch marker there. So I'll need that later on. So I'm going to, I chained 2, and here's my first stitch. So you really need to look at your stitches and see where you are. If I were doing the standard way, I would go through this stitch right here, but I'm doing the straight edge way. So I yarn over, you skip the first stitch, and I'm going to do a half double. So yarn over, and then you advance to the next stitch, just like normal. All right, so I'm going to quickly get across here. I'm going to do a couple together just to make my swatch smaller. So you don't have to watch me do all these single crochets or half double crochets. So I did a couple together. And here's my last stitch right here on that row. So I'm going to go through the last stitch and do my half double crochet. I'm going to stop here for just a second. Because I skipped that first stitch, remember, I've lost a stitch there. So what I have to do is I'm going to have to put a stitch in my turning chain. All right. So this row down below was a triple, or was it double? I think it was triple. And excuse me. You want to, sometimes it's hard to figure out where that turning chain is. So let's look at it. If you try to find your chains, you can see these V shapes. And sometimes you have to turn it to kind of find it and see, but that's what we're looking for, are these V shapes right here. So take your time, and I'm going to do a half double. I'm going to go right in that chain and do a half double. And I'm going to chain 2 for my half double. Now, so I don't have to guess or stress out or worry about it, I'm going to put a stitch marker right there to mark that chain 2. So put it right here to mark the chain 2. Turn your work. I'm going to do half double. I'm going to skip this first one because we're doing the straight edge method. So take a second and look and see where you are. There's the first one. There's the second one. Skip the first one. Do my half double. I'm just going to do half doubles just like normal. I'm going to half double 2 together just to make it faster. Because I want to get to the edge. So do a half double, just like normal. Half double. And so let's look here. So this is my last stitch. So half double in the last stitch, just like normal. And we're going to just take a quick little break and look and see where we are. So I skipped the first stitch and I worked all the way across. I did a half double in my last stitch, but because we're doing the straight edge method, I have to do a half double in my turning chain. And now because I put the stitch marker in here, I can see exactly where to go and there's no question and I don't have to guess and then wonder if I did it right. So just do a half double just like normal. You can even use that stitch marker to kind of help open it up. Half double. And then bring it through. And then chain 2. And then advance your stitch marker. So the next time you come back, you won't have to stress out and worry about it. Turn your work. Now let's look at it one more time on the swatches. So with the straight edge, you do get a nice straight edge. And with the standard edge, you get a bit of a wavy edge. So if you're making a baby blanket or a scarf, you might want the straighter edge. It might not matter to you. So you can decide. The pattern will tell you what you're supposed to be doing. And in the pattern, let's just say we're still on the straight edge. It'll say chain 2 counts as a stitch. So this chain 2 counts as a stitch. So you yarn over, skip the first one. Okay, so that's trying to be a stitch. Okay, and we're going to half double all the way across. Now, if our turning chain counts as a stitch. So just remember that our chain 2 counts as an actual stitch. Then when we get here, we're going to do a half double crochet in the turning chain, but it's not just a turning chain, it's actually a stitch, right? It's counting as part of our stitch count. I've got my stitch marker right there. So that's kind of how the pattern will read. So what questions do we have? There probably are questions now, right?
Well,
No?
we've got just under 10 minutes left. So we do have a request, since the cowl pattern has stripes, we have a request to see how to change colors. And then we should probably review that pattern if we've got time after that.
Okay. Let me grab another color. All right, so if we're going to change colors, we need to kind of think about that in the previous row. So I'm working with gray, and I'm going to change to green. So I'm going to do my, right there is my turning chain. I'm going to do my stitch in the turning chain. Because remember, my turning chain actually counts as a stitch. Now, normally you would yarn over with the gray and pull it through and finish off your stitch. But you'll get a much nicer edge if you switch to the new color here and you finish that stitch off with the new color. And that would be the same with any stitch that you're doing. You would just keep going until the last step of that stitch and then change color on the last step. So I'm marking where my chain is. And then you just keep going. And we talked about this in the last class. So if you want to go back and also review it in Crochet 2 from last week, you can do that. I do want to get to the point where we're reviewing the pattern. And then what you would do, I would go across with green and then back across with green, and I would switch to gray. And you don't always have to cut your work and reattach it. You can carry it up the side. And then you would start with your gray up here, and you'll kind of get these vertical floats. And that might not matter so much, or maybe you really hate that. So you can decide if you want to cut all of these and weave them in, or if you want to maintain the vertical floats. And I'm going to show you what that looks like on the finished cowl. Okay, we ready to look at the pattern?
Yes, and as we do that, if we have time, we do have a request to see how to do the edging on the cowl.
Well, let's look at the pattern and see what's going on. All right, so the pattern, it is a free crochet pattern from Lion Brand Yarn. So if you can always download and print a new copy if you need to, if you want to share one with a friend. So you can go there and print it for free. It's called the Crochet Level 3 Ripple Cowl. It gives you all of the supplies that you'll need. It's kind of written out like a recipe. You need 2 different colors of Lion Brand Heartland yarn. This one used Yellowstone and Yosemite. And that's available on lionbrand.com or michaels.com. You need a crochet hook size J, and you're going to need large-eyed blunt needles for weaving in the ends. And what it doesn't tell you, you need stitch markers, but I recommend using a stitch marker to keep track of where you are. So this one, it gives us a chart, it gives us a drawing, and it gives us written directions. And here's the key. It tells you what each one of these symbols mean. And then also you have it down here. So with A, so with one color, you're going to chain 39, and that's very easy. Row 1.
Darren, I don't know if you can zoom in. I certainly can't read that on your screen.
Okay. Okay. so let's see. See if that's better. Okay, so in row 1, you're going to double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook, and the 3 skipped crochets count as the first double crochet. So in this situation, it counts as the first double crochet. You're going to double crochet in the next 3 chains. So you're just going to do 3 standard normal double crochets. And then you're going to double crochet 2 together. So DC2 TOG is double crochet 2 together twice. And then you're going to double crochet in the next 3 chains. And now there's an asterisk. Whenever there's an asterisk, that usually means something's going to be repeated, but it's something you need to pay attention to. 2 double crochet each of the next 2 chains, double crochet in the next 3 chains, and then double crochet 2 together twice, double crochet in the next 3 chains, and repeat from the asterisk to the last 2 stitches, or to the last 2 double crochets, and you're going to have 2 double crochets in the last stitch, last chain. And then you'll work row 2 with the same color. You're going to chain 3, so that counts as your first double crochet. Turn your work, and now you're going to be working in the back loops only. So you're going to be making the stitches the same. You're just going to be working into a different place. And that's going to give you that little edging. So working in the back loops only, double crochet in the first stitch, double crochet in the next 3 stitches, double crochet 2 together twice, double crochet in the next 3 stitches, and now there's our asterisk, so something important is going to happen. 2 double crochet in each stitch in each of the next 2 stitches, double crochet in the next 3 stitches, double crochet 2 together twice, double crochet in the next 3 stitches, and then you're going to repeat from the asterisk to the beginning chain, and then 2 double crochets in top of the beginning chain, and change to color B. So what it's telling us here is 2 double crochet in the beginning chain. So remember, I showed you how to put the stitch marker to mark your place. So that is when you're going to be putting 2 double crochets in this turning chain. Now it sounds like a lot. It sounds like a lot, especially when I'm reading it, because I'm dyslexic, so I have to be very careful when I'm reading it, because I'll read it backwards or I'll say it wrong. But a couple of tricks to help keep track of where you are in your pattern. So you can use Post-it notes to block out everything that you're not doing. And sometimes I'll even put them above to block out, like if I'm doing this row. If it's something that's particularly confusing or something I'm really needing to focus on, and then that way if you glance away and you look back at your pattern, you'll know exactly where you're supposed to be. And then another thing I'll do is sometimes I'll take a pencil and I'll read through it. So with A, chain 3, turn, working in the back loops only, 2 double crochets in the first stitch, 3 double crochets in the next 3 stitches, and I might put a little mark there so I know that that's kind of like one step. So that one little step is easy. And then I have to double crochet 2 together twice, and then double crochet in the next 3 stitches. So I'm going to put a little mark there, and that's the next step. And then here my asterisk starts. So 2 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So if you kind of break it up like this, then it's more in little bite-sized pieces, and it's not like trying to do it all at once. You're just doing it like little sections at a time. And also remember, you're only doing 1 stitch at a time. So when you get into it and you're doing it, you don't have to like look at all of this. All you have to look at is the next stitch. And I promise when you start getting into it, it will make more sense as you're doing it. The only way to learn it is really to jump in and start doing it, and you'll make mistakes, and then you'll learn from those mistakes, and then the next time it will be better, okay? It does take a lot of practice, so practice is the key. And I wanted to show you this edge. So if you carry your yarn up the side, you do get this, I'm pulling them out so that you really see them. You get these floats that are going up the edge. And if you don't pull them out like I just did, you really don't notice them very much. And I bet when I was wearing this cowl at the beginning, you didn't even see it or notice it. So they really don't show up very much at all. But if you really hate that, you can cut every time you change yarn, cut your yarn, and then you have to weave in your ends. And that's quite tedious. A lot of people really don't like doing that. But if you look at this, it did sound like a lot to do, but there are only 7 rows, and you just keep repeating these 7 rows. So instead of like pages and pages and pages of pattern, you're just doing like this one little like group of instructions. You only have 7, or really, 5 or 6, words of instructions. So after you do it a couple of times, you'll really be in the groove, and you'll actually kind of memorize it as you're going. There's not an edging on this cowl, so I'm not sure what the question was to show the edging, or was it that you just wanted to see? Maybe that's
anything on the next page there?
Oh, maybe there is. Oh, I didn't even look at the next page. Well, we don't have time for that today, but let's look at it. From the right side, join A with single crochet anywhere along one edge. So join A and single crochet anywhere along the edge of the cowl, working over the carried yarn strand. Okay, that's why I didn't do it, because I wanted to show you that so you could see it. But let me see if I can do that quickly. I have the right yarn.
While Darren's finding yarn, I'll break in. I know we're a couple minutes over here, so if you do need to go, remember that this recording will be available tomorrow on the Michael's YouTube channel. So if you want to come back and see this, I'm going to pop the handout and the pattern into the chat as well in case you need those again.
So all you do is you want to do it right along the very edge. So you want to try to pick up 2 strands of yarn, and you just bring that through, pull up a loop, and chain 1 for your single. And then you just do single crochet. And the thing you want to do is you want to try to always go the same depth and always space your stitches out the same distance. Now, this is a bit tricky sometimes on crochet because you've got your turning chains, and sometimes it's hard to see exactly where you're going. So don't be too upset if it doesn't look right and you have to rip it out and try it a second time. But this is all you do. And you just kind of guess, kind of like, should I go there or should I go here? And see how it's looking. And then every now and again, you want to stop and kind of look and make sure it looks neat. But that's how you do it. I actually prefer it without this because I like to see the stripe on the edge. I think that's a kind of a cleaner finish to me than having this edging where the stripe's not finishing on the edge. So that's a personal choice. So that's kind of what that looks like. And you get these little legs kind of reaching down into the stripe below it, whereas I kind of like this cleaner look. So you can make that decision and see which way you like better. If you do have any questions, you can feel free to contact me on social media. Maybe Claire will put it in the chat. My screen name is Mr. Woolly Bear. It's M-I-S-T-E-R Woolly Bear written out, and that's on TikTok and Instagram. And then on Facebook, it's just my name, just spelled out. So if you do have any questions or need any follow-up, feel free to contact me, send me a direct message, and I usually try to respond as quick as I can. And, you know, I always like to try. I hate to leave you in a lurch. I always feel like there's so much more to learn. So you can kind of keep in touch with me that way if you need to. So thanks for coming to class. Don't forget to practice. Bye.